Okay. All right, so it's a light agenda. Depends on whether or not some of the folks want to share anything. But there are just a couple of things I wanted to go over as far as some community news that we wanted to share that I think are pretty special. But also, since this is the last meeting we'll have before San Diego, maybe prompt some discussion on some things that we'll have next week. So first of all, as far as the general updates and things to announce, Ironwood is out. Ned, what should people know about that?
They should know that it is the best OpenEdX release ever.
Ever.
Yeah, so Ironwood 0.1 is exactly the same as RC4. There were no changes since RC4. I tagged it last night. The release notes are being reviewed right now. They should be published very, very soon, I would guess. The release notes are pretty extensive this time. We got some good detail in there about the updates. One of the things I'm most excited about in Ironwood is the anonymous access or public access to courseware, which was a community feature. And if you haven't read about it, it's the latest blog post on the OpenEdX blog. The blog post was written by Jill Craft, and it goes into some detail about what that means, the public access to courseware. It's some instances have wanted for a long time and had done in their own way, but now it's an actual feature in the core code, and I think it's really good what it is and how it came about.
Yeah, so here's so thank you, Jill, for writing that up. I recommend everyone take a look at that. It's a great kind of overview of how we can get things done as a community in collaboration. So it's cool stuff. Thanks. Anything else about Ironwood? How many of you have had a chance to give it a spin? Yeah, sort of. Okay.
A little bit. Involved a little bit. Pierre definitely has.
Yeah. Okay.
Also, I wanted to thank Felipe, because one of the changes in Wood that universally was that Studio now redirects to LMS to log in, and that works, imposes some constraints on the domain names, either the domain names or the cookie domain. And there were some site operators that weren't comfortable with those constraints, and Felipe was one of them, and he contributed a feature flag to allow the old behavior specifically to get it into Ironwood, so that the site operators would still have that kind of flexibility they'd had before.
Great. Cool. Thanks, Ned.
Namisha's here, by the way.
Oh, cool. Yay. The gang's all here.
Actually, I should have had my camera. That's not nice. Hello.
Sure.
Now that I don't have anything more to say, you can see my face.
Yeah, well, All right, any questions about Ironwood or anything else Ned mentioned?
We will, of course, be doing a follow-on covered in Ironwood. So what's out now is Ironwood 0.1, and there will be an Ironwood 0.2. But we'll see what works.
Great. Aaron shares with us that his camera is off because he's eating. So thank you, Aaron, for sharing that with us.
You have to bring it up for everybody, Aaron, if you're going to do that. We're all about sharing around.
Yes. All right. So good deal. Okay. So that's Ironwood. We have a we have a very packed schedule for next week, as you know. We've got we'll have well over 300, probably pushing upwards to like 320. If you count everyone involved, it's probably more like 330. But it's going to be a big conference. We've got you've probably seen all the content. So things have come together pretty well. We have a really big reception sponsor in the form of Pearson. Pearson is going to start doing a lot more Open edX things this next year. We've got UCSD is making an announcement about an integration they're doing with Caliper. That's going to be pretty good to dig into. And then we've got the Developer Summit, which I hope to see all of you at next week, as well as several BOFs and other opportunities we have to get together and chat. Any questions about what's coming up at the conference or anything related to the conference that you want to talk about before we move on to a couple of the things that have been happening? Speak now or forever hold your peace.
So I'll throw something out there that actually we have not been planning for, but I think would be a really cool thing to happen. I'm going to play John Mark and this thing and just throw a wild idea out there and see what happens. The lunch times are just lunch, and I think it would be great if we could somehow collect people together by interests during lunch. And I don't know exactly how to do that, but if one of you wants to think about how that could work and make it happen during the lunch times, that would be amazing.
Hey, Ned.
Yeah.
Could it operate like the Boston Python Project Night?
It could. Those of you who aren't familiar, the Boston Python Project Night, it looks like a room where people might sit down to have a meal, and what we do is we just label some tables. We get a piece of paper and we write begin on them, or Django on another, or hardware, or data science, and then people look around and see what the labels are and sit where they want to sit. The trick there is, what are the labels, and who's going to find the paper and the pen and make it happen? So that it could be as simple as that.
Yeah. Yeah, if somebody wants to pronounce
John Baldwin
like
is now
or whatever.
It could also be self-created labels, right?
Sure.
If we make them available and
yep.
It's sort of like a birds of a feather thing where you're like, oh, I want to talk about this, and then you just maybe find a table and make that table.
Yep.
Yeah. Have some Sharpies and poster board and yeah, we could do that.
So we've done a lot of work in the last months to organize the structured parts of the conference, right? There's tutorials on tape and there's breakout sessions for the last Dev Summit on Friday is coming together. But the birds of a feather and the coffee breaks and lunchtime are basically unstructured, and anyone can jump in and make something happen there. And that's really exciting to me. See that kind of ad hoc clumping together of interests, which you can really only do face-to-face, and gets a lot of value out of the conference. As someone who's been putting work into planning the conference, I want to see a lot of value come out, because a lot of work has gone in. So I'm counting on you to get a lot out of this conference.
Sounds good.
And then finally, and I think Dave Ormsby is on the, well, anything else about the conference before we go on? Okay.
Any questions?
Yeah.
We've been steeped in it for a long time, so we kind of know what's going on, but maybe things we haven't explained well. I think a lot of the people here have been to previous conferences, so they have a right expect.
Okay.
I do have, sorry, real quick. There would be anyone who would have a camera that they could take video of the figures workshop?
Oh.
There are definitely going to be cameras around. We're not having formal videographers for the workshops. There are at least 2 people who are planning to be there with video-capable cameras to do one-off interviews with people, person in the street style interviews of Open edX attendees. I don't know if those people want their camera occupied for an hour and a half during the figures workshop or whatever it is. We could put you in touch with them and
Thank
see,
you.
I guess.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
have a question. I don't know if you have these stats, but like, do you have a rough idea of like the breakdown of the attendees of the conference in terms of developers versus structural designers, that type of thing?
That's a really good question, which I do not know the answer to at this particular time. I do know that the Instructional Design Summit has attracted a lot more of the sort of instructional design community, which is exactly what we wanted. And so
Great.
looking forward to seeing more of them out and about, and kind of look for more, content and events over the next year designed specifically for them. But yeah, I look forward to seeing and going through the attendee list and kind of breaking out some data around like who's attending and from where, so we can get a better idea of how successful we were in diversifying the audience. So
Yeah, that's great. Okay.
Right, we're already starting to think about what we could do differently next year. Maybe one thing is to ask a question like that on the Eventbrite form when people register, and then we know ahead of time.
yes, that's
are showing up.
Exactly. Okay. So anyway.
One last question.
Yeah.
Are there any plans for the dev to be able to let people who cannot attend join those discussions? I know we tried that last year. I think we also did in Madrid, but I think last year we did that for some of the sessions, and it was okay because it was good teleconferencing in the rooms to do. Challenging to hear folks at times. Are we trying to do that again this year? Because we have a number of our folks who I think we couldn't send them to the conference, but would be eager to be part of those dev conversations.
Yeah, so we don't have anything organized for how to do that. My hope for the Dev Summit days is that the discussions try to focus on how do we organize so that we can get stuff done beyond the Dev days.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Ideally, that would mean both we build ourselves a way that we can actually work throughout the year together. The theme of the conference, of course, is collaborations. Either than talking about architecture or whatever at Dev Days is talking about how do we do collaboration on architecture. And if we can set up those kinds of structures and organizations that will persist beyond the day, then those people will be able to participate. We have not figured out how to include people remotely in discussions. It tends to be a very, peering through a long straw kind of
yeah.
It's
I think
a little dissatisfying.
I think we'll have to do like a combination of, in-person, like online events for online collaboration, in-person events. It's difficult to combine them, but I mean, we can, but particularly in this case for this conference, just because of logistical setup, it's going to be difficult to be able to allow that. I mean, it's easy to do kind of like the one-way live streaming, which we'll be doing for a couple of different rooms, but the bidirectional is difficult.
Yeah, I understand. I know that stuff depends on the facilities, but like the idea of using this as a foundation for those working groups and figure out how we keep it going throughout the year. I think.
Yeah, I'd be very excited to see some of those long-term structures develop from these discussions.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Any other questions? Okay. Dave Ormsby is here. Dave, do you have any data to present about the Inker project on hand?
I was not anticipating sharing anything.
Okay. The only reason I'm asking is because just as a lead into this, so many of you are familiar with our kickoff of the Inker project a couple months ago. Part of this was focused on the Python 2 to Python 3 and eventually the Django 2 migration. But there's a bunch of other stuff as well. But in terms of creating a project around all the sort of incremental changes that need to be made, we're happy to report that the response has been really good, to the tune of, a 3x increase in like pull requests merged over the past month. And so we're really proud of the fact that we're able to kind of rally people around a set project. People were actually responding and contributing. And I think because of that, we're all going to have a better platform as a result. And somewhere there are a couple of slides that demonstrate this, which I unfortunately don't have. And I was hoping that somebody on the call had them so we could kind of show you and paint a picture of what exactly. If you don't see it this time, don't worry about it, because we're going to present this next week at one of the Saturdays. But I was hoping somebody had it offhand.
I could poke around in my inbox right now, but that doesn't make great TV.
No, it doesn't. But I think
Yeah, I have the pictures. I have that. I will send them to you since I can't share for some reason.
Oh,
I can send them.
That's fine. But I think the long and short of it is, because we had this project and we put it together and we had a good response. The inference we're making is that if we do this more often for other projects, we'll get the kind of collaboration that we've been looking for. And so the question going forward is, what kind of projects make sense? What would be, in addition to the Anchor project and things associated with it, what are some other things that we can do in this way as a way to kind of show, what's possible if we, if we do the right things and set it up properly. Dave just sent me, hang on a second. And let me pull
James, are you asking what other types of projects other than Python 3 that can make use of Anchor? Is that what you're asking? Okay.
Well, in addition to Anchor, what are some other projects that we can do collaboratively that get like the sort of community vibe that we've been looking for?
Yeah.
Here we go.
And since you open with that conversation, that question, to me, like two other big initiatives that I'd love to work with the community on. One of them is the modernization of our front end. Yes. And that's going to be there'll be a couple of different sessions, tutorials and dev summit and birds of feather and talks around our front end architecture and front end changes. And it would be great to have help with the community to help us rewrite our pages in React using reusable components. And the architecture team is building infrastructure to enable then ourselves as well as any team to take on that effort. So that would also be great. It'll help us get to where we want to for the modernization aspect, the user experience aspect, and there is a lot of advantages to us working together on getting to this new consistent place. So.
Sure, and just to like kind of.
Anyway, that's one, and then go ahead.
And just to dig into that a little bit more, there was a major effort in the past year to contribute this kind of front end application that was written in like the previous framework. So the amount of effort required to merge it into the rest of the code is substantial. And so if we were able to get the right amount of attention focused on kind of, getting to the React-based front ends that we're looking for, then that will result in, you know, easier application development for everyone else in the community. So that's the sort of thing that these are sorts of things that we're looking to do so that we can it becomes a better platform regardless of what you're doing, whether you're, you know, anyone that's actually trying to develop or extend the platform, you know, will have the tools readily available to do so. So that's exactly the kind of project that is that we should be open to doing this way. Any questions about Anchor or kind of like collaborative development in general? John, yes.
So one thing I'm curious about, let's say that I'm a mid-level Django developer.
Okay.
I find that, oh, I need to do OpenEdX development, or I want to do OpenEdX development. What's my starting story to get going? And I know nothing about OpenEdX right now. My starting story to get going with being able to contribute to Anchors.
So we have to write a page that answers that question in particular for Anchor tickets. It's actually on a bit.ly link, bit.ly/edx-Anchor, I think it is. And once you do that stack, once you do Anchor page, I forget what else is on that page. It's not a long page. Goal, definitely that we're all looking to improve that experience. Jeremy Bowman is doing Nate Gaddis for us. Same one, yep. Jeremy is doing a tutorial on Tuesday. Bowman to get started with Anchor, but how to teach other people to get started with Anchor. And I know he's going to be looking for ideas during that tutorial. You know, how to make the there. You know, constantly iterating on where the difficulties are so that we can get people going. Right now, the two prolific Anchor contributors are experienced Python developers, but OpenEdX noobs. So they aren't very vocal about what was difficult. They're the type of people that will just sort of do it and not talk a lot about where it could be improved. Just want to get great. They're getting a lot of pull requests in. But yeah, we're always looking to improve that. So if you have ideas, especially if you have a guinea pig who's going through the process, and we can get sort of first person reports about what bumps out, that would be great.
Thank you. I'm the kind of one of the plant things that I'm chewing over is doing basically getting OpenEdX for Django Boston, since OpenEdX is such a big platform built on Django. I'm like,
yep.
This has to be interesting to Django developers.
Okay. Just so everyone knows, I'm in Boston and I organize the Boston Python user group, and John Baldwin is also in Boston and organizes the Django Boston user group. And it is impossible to keep us from thinking about those things. So luckily, it overlaps with both of them. One thing to note about Anchor tickets, we've had such success with people Anchor tickets, actually have enough Anchor tickets written. A call went out for people to write more Anchor tickets so that there could be Anchor tickets for people to take. I'm not sure where that stands at the moment, but if you get to the Anchor page and it seems like there's much that, some more tickets.
Good problem to have.
Yes, that's exactly the problem we want. Yes. Cool. All right. Has everyone seen the Developer Summit lineup and added their input? I think everyone here has, at least from the names I'm seeing on the applet. But if you haven't, you have a little more than a week to do so.
And yesterday, a few of us went and put a section on top of the page to just as a proposal when discussions would happen during the day. So if you haven't taken a look at the latest version, you can take a look at that. And if you have any comments, come for something that you want to raise, then please add comments to the page.
Hey, this is Nate. Question about the scheduling. Is there a cutoff point at which the schedule gets sort of frozen and then there's no new topics? And if so, is there to have some unofficial topics that are kind of happening in parallel with the official
Right.
one?
So the goal has never been tightly served that day. We wanted the day to be useful to people, and we wanted them to be productive. And one of the bits of feedback we got, I think, from one of the last year, people showed in the day and weren't quite sure what to expect. So we tried to be a little bit more structured. We looked at the topics that had been proposed and took the one we thought would definitely have a critical mass of people and definitely seemed like the people proposing them were serious about actually running them. We plotted them on the day. People could take the day and say, well, if I just show up and sort of consume what's offered to me, then this is kind of what I'm going to get. But
And also based on food.
And the participant, the critical mass. So if, but absolutely, if someone shows up and says, look, I'm going to hack on this over here. Sure, want to talk about this over there, come and join me, that's fine too. I don't know, I haven't actually been to the San Diego location yet. I know how many we have at the Three Pines Center for Friday, but I think we've got enough room that we can spread out and everyone can do what they need to do. And maybe we need to make that clearer on the page that this is a skeleton and ad hoc stuff can happen as well.
Okay. Yeah, we kind of went back and forth on how much to precede the schedule and how much to leave open space. The good news is that there's a ton of space in the facility where we're having a developer summit. It's actually in a different location than the rest of the conference, so we're going to have to provide directions on how to get there. But once you get there, there's a lot of space to operate with. There's a lot of open space for people to kind of set up areas to hack on projects and that sort of thing. So it's going to be a nice place to have it your way, whether you want to participate in the existing schedule or make your own. So, all right. Anything else about the Dev Summit? Okay. Cool. All right. Anything else that anybody wants to talk about or show, announce, other stuff? All right. Excellent. I know I'm going to see a lot of you next week. Some of you I won't because you won't be able to go. We will have the live stream sessions on our YouTube channel, which you'll find on, let me just, I think that's it, right? Somebody, I'm just verifying that. Yes, that's the right one. Okay, so if you can't make it, you will be able to follow along there, and we will be recording the sessions that we're not live streaming anyway. So you'll be able to, everyone will be able to see those eventually after the fact. Otherwise, I look forward to talking to everyone, and we'll chat soon. Next time will be after the conference, and we'll have probably a session talking about all the things that happened, and it would be great to get some feedback from you about what went well and what didn't the next time we talk. All right, anything else? Otherwise, we'll chat later.
Safe travel, everyone.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you all.